At least have an in-flight movie for God's sakes.
So the in-flight movie is the film Major League, in which
Yeah,
Chris Ilitch says that mean owner lady's got a good idea.
she's onto something. She's onto something. She ain't wrong. She ain't wrong. I like the rant. Ranting is fun. It also makes it cleanses the soul. Uh,
Detroit is to be one of the best sports cities in the country, if not the best.
Surely Javi can't be as bad this year as he was last year. Surely that can't be the case.
one of the worst offenses, if not the worst offense, like in the modern era of baseball. Just absolutely atrocious. He is a piece to the puzzle. He is not the entire puzzle.
Right.
He is a puzzle piece, but he is not the entire puzzle.
This is the Michigan and Trumbull podcast with your hosts, Alex S. Freeman and Luke Giaconis. It's true, Luke. You've booked the show. You're in.
That's me.
Yeah, it's taken
Wow, I'm in.
4 seasons. You're just now realizing you're on the show. Hello, everybody. I'm Alex Freeman. This is the Michigan and Trumbull podcast, joined as always by Luke Giaconis, who sometimes forgets that he's on the show. The one and only Luke Giaconis. Luke, how's it going?
What a week. What a time. What a year. What a millennium. Grab a cold beer, have some friends, have some apple pie. Welcome to the Michigan and Trumbull podcast.
We're getting there, and to our listeners in Michigan, I hope you're not too covered in snow at the moment as a massive winter storm moves across the northern part of the country. It was just cold for me here in New York. Luke, make us all mad at you. How was the weather in Florida today?
Well, today it said the high was 87. I wouldn't know that because I was stuck inside working all day. But I can report that right now it's 6:45-ish when we're recording this on Thursday, February 23rd. It is 78 degrees outside in Naples, Florida. So
Casual 78 degrees.
Haven't worn a winter coat in quite some time. Haven't busted out the boots. Haven't seen snow now in probably over 2 years. I think it snowed a little bit, flurries when I was back home in November for a long weekend, but nothing that was that insane. Yeah, sorry to all those Northerners, but man, I don't miss that. Not
But
even a little.
I guess that's why they play spring training in places like Arizona and Florida and
Hmm.
not in Michigan. They don't come to Michigan for spring training.
Yeah, I think Lansing in February and March might not be the most appealing thing to Major League Baseball teams. Although the Tigers pretty much play in that weather for most of April and a good chunk, if not all of May, to some seasons.
It's true.
You had a great segue that you teed me up for there. Spring training, it's
There we go.
underway. Great stuff. Pitchers and catchers are here. The boys are back. We've got promo picks happening. They're putting them all over Twitter and Instagram and social media. Spring training games start this weekend, or I guess when this drops on Monday, they'll have already begun this past weekend. So that's exciting. Speaking of spring training games, I will be in attendance to the Sunday, March 5th game up in Florida, Fort Myers, excuse me, the Tigers Twins. Very excited. Hammond Stadium, I believe it is. Second game I've seen there in the last year. Excited to see the Tigers play. And even if they lose, I won't be that mad because the games don't mean anything in spring training. But
Yeah.
this is, I think, if I'm not mistaken, the first time I've ever seen the Tigers play a spring training game. So I've got
That's
that going
exciting.
for
Yeah,
me.
I've never done Major League Baseball spring training. I said that like I've done minor league baseball spring training, but I've just never been to a spring training game.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to hear about your experience.
Yeah, I know last year I did 2 or 3 games. I did the Braves and the Phillies game. That was the game I met Dombrowski. And then uh did what we did Twins Rays. That was fun too. But yeah, they're just fun, more low key. All the starters usually out by like the fourth or the fifth inning, depending on especially what time of year you're going. So the thing that sucks for me though is when I go next Sunday, I'm going as an early birthday gift for myself. Very exciting stuff.
Lovely.
I think Miggy, Erod, Scope, and Javi all won't be playing because it'll be, I believe, World Baseball Classic bound by that point. So that's kind of a bummer, but I'm sure we'll get to see some of the other young guys, and that'll be exciting.
Yeah, are you looking forward to the World Baseball Classic? Are you planning to watch? What's your vibe there?
I will watch, and actually, I don't even know what tickets are, but I should look. It's right at Lone Depot Stadium in Miami, where the Marlins are at, if I'm not mistaken. So I definitely should consider going to see a game. But will I? Probably not. I like the World Baseball Classic. Um, I think it's going to be a pretty exciting event. I think it's the first time they've done it. Like what? How many years has it been? Like 4 or 5? I know
Yeah, it's
COVID
been it's
derailed
been a
it and
minute. Yeah.
everything. It's been a hot minute, but yeah, I mean, I'll watch it. I don't watch it super intently. I have to dedicate all my baseball watching time for the next 6 months to the Detroit Tigers. So I kind of like this time of year because it's like baseball's on. If you want to watch it, great. I'm getting excited for it. But then once the games actually start regular season, it's like, all right, now I got to focus in. Got some homework to do for these next 5 to 6
Hmm.
months. Even though it might be very painful at times, it's homework nonetheless. And then again, has homework ever not been painful? You know, come on, teachers, what's it all
I have
about? But
also
yeah,
purchased my first Yankees tickets for the year. I will be at Yankees Phillies on April 5th,
nice,
which will be a
very
nice
nice.
kickoff to the season at Yankee Stadium. Should be a good game. Two pretty solid squads.
Yeah, definitely, definitely could probably see some sparks fly offensively there for sure. I still got to think about Tigers Rays at the end of March or early April because it's opening weekend. So definitely may try to sneak up to Tropicana one of those afternoons or one of those evenings and catch a game. Since I know I'm going to I know I have a couple different chances this year because I think also the Tigers are back in town in Miami at the end of July. So it's like if I don't catch them in April, I'll probably catch one of those series at one of those games in July. And then obviously we have our tickets for the final home game of the year. So I'm already kind
Yep.
of like, all right, I'm going to see him at least a couple times. And then I would love to cross another stadium off the list. Don't know if I'll be able to do that this year, but here's hoping. We'll see what happens.
We should talk, Luke, because I've been considering looking at when and if the Tigers either go to Boston or Philly. Um, if I
I would love to do Boston.
maybe hop in a car and head over there. So we
Boston would
should
be sick, man.
chat offline about
No,
maybe
no,
that's
no.
something
Let's
we make
plan it
happen
now.
with everybody
Look at your
involved.
Google
Okay, everybody
Calendar.
get the flights up, get the figure it out.
If you're listening, you're invited too.
Yeah,
So
come on up.
congratulations. Come
Um,
one, come all. We're going to Boston. You heard it here first.
exactly. It'll be a great time. We'll have a good time. We'll get in a fight probably because it's Boston. All right,
Mhm.
Luke. Spring training's underway. Stuff to talk about, but obviously we're going to take the first stop of this episode is going to be at a Luke rant.
Oh my god.
I just
Too
want
much
everybody to
pressure.
know the look on Luke's face is that he's actively thinking about what to rant about right now.
Right.
That's why we
I
gave him
rant about my
30,
day at
30
work.
seconds of intro music so that he could figure out his rant.
The intro music is long. I feel like I'm watching a Scorsese movie. Like it won't end. I mean, it's good, but it just won't end. I'm still
It's The
watching The
Irishman.
Irishman. I know. Okay, what am I gonna rant about this week? There's more. I think about to start it again. I was like, I don't need that much time. Come on, cut me some slack. I've been doing this for a couple seasons. Um, Look, what's there to rant about this week? I guess I'll just rant about the fact that it's been a week for me, and that's been life, and that's how it goes sometimes. No, no, no. Let's keep it baseball related. I think the one thing I would rant about this week is something you and I briefly discussed prior to the show starting, and it's that the Ghost Runner is here to stay. I'm not excited about this based off everything I'm gauging on social media, Twitter, Instagram, etc., the Facebook, all the Reddits. I don't ever go on Reddit, so I don't know why I threw that one into the equation. But anyways, no one really likes a Ghost Runner. I get why it was a thing during the height of COVID, but I just think it is more than overstayed its welcome. It's annoying. It's a nuisance. It just pops up time and time again. It is the Kimmy Gibbler of Major League Baseball, and that is just absolutely terrible. Um, yeah, I know you and I have had some spirited debates about this in the past, and I think we've always, although they've been spirited at times, you just try to get me to look at it more from the analytical approach, which I appreciate and understand. I do know we're both on the same page of like
Mhm.
we don't like the rule. Why is the rule here? And it just feels like we're 3 years, 3 seasons now entering past the COVID season. Like it's time to move on. And I always say I know they're trying to find ways to shorten the game, and make the game more, appetizing to, just people beyond the generic fan that's going to tune in every game, but I just it's one of those things to me. I always say I feel like after a while it starts to compromise the integrity of the game. And I've always said this, or even to kind of be, a bit negotiable. I'm fine if they don't want games going 15, 16, 17, 18 innings of extra innings. I get that. Then but let's keep it at like we've always said, like let them play extra innings baseball through 11. And then if they
Mhm.
get to the 12th and they're still deadlocked, at a tie, then put the runner on second. So not a huge rant, no F bombs, not even gonna have to get the bleep button out. But I will just say I think it's annoying, I think it's stupid, and I'm bummed that is here to stay now forever. And I wish they would just at least reconsider to do some sort of change to it and let them play a couple innings of regular extra inning baseball. But it seems like that's not happening now or ever again, at least as it stands currently. So that's what I got.
Yeah, I mean, I think that encapsulated it really, really nicely, Luke. Kind of the what I would probably venture to say the official editorial stance of the show is that the Ghost
Yeah.
Runner sucks. If we have to have it, it should not come into play until after the 11th or 12th inning.
Yep.
So that, like, because that's obviously the point where you need to end the game. I would also like, I don't know, in that scenario, I would rather see us go to something that is like the stupid Bettman point in hockey,
Mhm.
where you get into extra innings and we're going to split the points. We do a point system as opposed to a win-loss system, and we kind of go into there because at that point, like, yeah, if you don't score in the top of the inning, like you lose, unless the other
Yeah.
team is just that inept at hitting, which sometimes the Detroit Tigers are. So I guess I would rather it's a system that favors a Detroit Tigers team that would be able to salvage some points in that
Yeah. And
scenario.
I'm like, I wish there was an idea that they could come up with that, like, okay, we're going to play 3 regular innings of extra inning baseball, no ghost run or anything like that. If you get to the 12th or whatever, and there's still, a tie game, like if they could find like what is the equivalent of baseball as hockey has their shootout? Like
Hmm.
you can't really do a home run derby, although I think that'd be kind of cool.
They've done it
So
in
I
the
really guess the
minors
only thing that,
before. They've done like a
yeah,
couple minor league all-star games. They put the rule in effect
yeah,
that if it gets to
it'd be kind of
12 or
cool.
15, it
I
ends in
mean,
a home run derby.
yeah, I kind of like that, but then, like, I guess the question would be then, how does that work? Like choosing people, like because you look at a team like the Yankees or a team like you mentioned, like the Phillies, whatever. Just like they've got all this depth of talent and power hitters. The Braves come to mind. There's a lot of great teams out there with a lot of heavy duty power hitters where they can pick 4 or 5 guys. Whereas the Tigers, it's like, all right, Javi, grab the bat. Here we go. This is what you're kind of made for. I don't. With all due respect to some of the other guys, I don't know if you want them taking your home run derby swings. Maybe Miguel Cabrera 4 or 5 years ago, but not currently. So I think that's
Mhm.
something kind of it's a fanciful dream, but I don't ever really see that. Rob Manfred doesn't seem like he would want to have fun like that. So he's already, in my opinion, kind of killing some of the fun of baseball, which is just the idea of extra innings as it was. It was always just at any moment, you know, you could win. And I understand the argument. Well, at any moment, if there's a runner on second, a base hit can win the game. But I get that side of it. But
Mhm.
just I don't know. I feel like it kind of compromised, like I always say, the integrity of the game and how it's supposed to play. And I do feel like it kind of throws a wrench into strategy. Those from innings 1 through 9, that all of a sudden you have to kind of throw out the playbook and think a new strategy with a runner and your bullpen and all that stuff. But I don't know. I just wish it wasn't here anymore. I feel like we've gotten rid of other things too, right? So why is this the one thing that has to stick around?
Yeah.
But
Yeah. That was a that
that's
was a
that.
fairly that was a fairly tame rant, Luke.
Well, it wasn't I think I'm just so tired. It's how life is tiring sometimes.
Just
And no,
worn
I think
down.
I'm trying, like I said, to be more, restrained. I'm trying to think more clear and level headed. I got to save these rants until we get into the actual season because
That's
that's when the
true.
best. And I guess it doesn't have to be a Tigers rant. This really wasn't Tigers related today. It was just kind of a rant about Major League Baseball in general. But let me go to the spring training game next week and see what their prices are on concessions, and then tune into that following week's episode because that might be a great rant, depending on how much concessions are at a spring training game. It's something I'm very passionate about. just concessions in general.
I'm playing you off.
You cut me off. I finally was kind of getting heated up, and
You thank the Academy. Please exit the stage now.
that'll be enough.
That'll be enough. No, that's going to bring us into what we are soft calling our vibe check of the show, kind of the meat and potatoes of the whole thing. Obviously, spring training got underway. We've got the full squad. Full squad practices have started. We'll have had the first games by the time this episode drops. And so the two stories I'm bringing to us, Luke, here, and we can get into obviously other things, but to start things out, both Chris Ilitch and Scott Harris have talked to the media this week. Ilitch didn't say too much to the media, was just kind of like around and didn't have any formal statements, but Scott Harris did actually chat with them. And I'm going to read you the quote here of Scott Harris when asked about his expectations for the 2023 season. Our goal for this year is to play competitive baseball as deep into this season as we possibly can. Coming off 96 losses, there are no shortcuts back to contention. It starts with putting together a team in an environment that can play competitive baseball every day. We're going to play competitive baseball as deep into this season as we can. That's going to be our goal. We're going to start there, and then we can build on that. Luke, what are your immediate reactions to as deep into this season as we possibly can?
Well, I think that's a fair goal when you're coming off almost a 100-loss season, and when you assess the roster as it currently is, it's not, the worst statement I've ever read. But I just go back to the thing of when you're playing any type of professional sport, when you're playing any sport in general, whether you're an amateur, a pro, whatever it might be, whether you're in the Super Bowl or playing, stickball with your friends, in the cul-de-sac, a little wiffle ball, perhaps, your goal is to win and to win the whole thing. So I get being competitive and staying in as many games as you think you possibly can for as long as you possibly can. But at the end of the day, wins matter, losses matter. So I don't care if this team is competitive through 8 innings, but in the ninth inning every single game they choke it up. Those are still losses, and that's unacceptable because this team has had a lot of losses over the last 8 years. So would I have liked him to go out and say, even if he doesn't believe it, just to kind of give the fan base a peace of mind, like, hey, our goal is to go out there and win a World Series, not to play as much competitive baseball for as long as we possibly can. Yeah, I would have. And to me, that does kind of seem like a slam dunk when you're the new guy. But I guess I'll give him a little bit of credit. You don't want to set false hope, false expectations. But I think all of us who, can read the roster and can see where this team is at and the lack of moves this offseason, we know what's in store. Now it's just a matter of how miserable is it going to be. We kind of talked about last week kind of where we think this team is, and from what I keep reading all over, Twitter, and as projections are coming out for the season, a lot of people are thinking it's going to be anywhere from like a 68 to 73 win year for the Tigers, which I think we both were kind of like, yeah, that seems more or less reasonable. Maybe a little bit better than last year, not as good as 2021, still not finishing 500, and still not even getting close to any type of playoff clinching, spot. So I don't love his comments. I don't hate his comments. I'm kind of mundane. Boy, what's going on with me? I used to be so angry and so animated and heated. I guess I am. I'm going to be 28 in a couple weeks. Maybe I'm starting to mature a little bit. Who knows? But they're fluff comments. They're fluff comments to me. Honestly, I'd rather him make the comments than Chris Ilitch, because I'm convinced Chris Ilitch doesn't even know spring training has started. That's how clueless that moron is. But yeah, they're fluff comments for me. Scott knows where we're at. I think the bulk of us know where we're at. Now it's just a question of how bad is it going to be, or are we going to be pleasantly surprised? I will say this, from the things I've been kind of seeing on the social medias and stuff, a lot of people are big on the bounce back season, especially the one guy I think people are expecting a lot of bounce back from is Austin Meadows. I know he's made some comments coming following his season last year where he struggled a lot with his mental health and other injuries as well. So, like I said on last week's show, Austin Meadows, if he's one of those 3 or 4 or 5 guys, I think if he can bounce back and play to the level like we know he's capable of, then the season does become a little bit more fun then it becomes a little bit more intriguing. But as it stands now, it is kind of just a big question mark of who knows what the hell is going to happen. All I know is that I don't think it's going to be particularly pretty.
Yeah, I mean it is definitely one of those the spot that the team is in, and we talked about it this a little bit on the last episode, that if you think about if Riley Green continues to progress, if Torkelson um if we consider this like a redo of Torkelson's rookie year, if he like is that rookie that we thought he should have been last year, obviously was not actually quite ready for prime time last year. Hopefully now, if he is, that's obviously a significant improvement over where he was last year. If Javi Baez is not the worst defensive shortstop in the league, that in itself will be a significant improvement. And if Javi's bat comes a little bit closer to where we've seen it in his career than it was last year, that's also actually a fairly significant improvement on the roster. And then also obviously Austin Meadows, if he's back to be the guy that he could be, and certainly I think there's great potential for that. Suddenly that's like it's an intriguing lineup that can and does feel competitive on a day-to-day basis. Similarly, if Scope gets back to where he was in 2021, those, and obviously this feels like the same kind of thing we keep saying year after year. Like, oh well, if this guy was good at baseball, we'd have a pretty good baseball team. But like those guys are all guys that had, with Riley Green being the exception, had kind of career bad years. Obviously Torkelson's career is 1 year old.
Yeah.
But like
Akil Badu only his second year, so yeah.
Yeah, like a lot of guys that were in a bad position now have new hitting coaches working with them. Feels like, as we saw with Robbie Grossman, who was like an adjustment away from being the hitter we needed him to be, after he went to Atlanta, that I think we could potentially see an offense that is significantly more potent than it was last year, which obviously is not a very high bar to clear.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I don't want to rehash last week's show, but it's a lot relies on the bounce back, and there are just so many guys that either were very inexperienced last year, either their first or second years in the league, guys who had historically bad years, whether it was on offense or defense, guys who battled injuries, whether it was offensively or our pitchers. Just like it was it was what it was. I think that I'm very curious to see. The one I am most excited to see right now, I think, in terms of bounce back, is Austin Meadows. I think he has the capability to really be the guy that we thought he was going to be coming over from Tampa. Akil Badu, I think this is really his make or break year. Had a really fun rookie season, pretty brutal second season, sophomore slump. Let's see how he handles this year. And Scope, for all the jokes that Miguel Cabrera comes into camp in the best shape of his life, Jonathan Scope literally did. He looks great. Looks like he slimmed down a bunch. Hopefully it's going to be able to help him move a little bit quicker. And obviously, if he can get it together offensively, kind of like he had it in 2021, that's only going to help. So I say this every year, and I guess here we are, the second episode of this season, I'm saying it already. I don't root for these guys to fail. I know sometimes my jokes and my bits and my sarcasm, especially if you're following us on Twitter mid-season, it may seem that way, but I really don't want to see these guys fail. I want to see them play well. I want to see them win. For the love of God, I think the Tigers are long overdue for a World Series championship coming up on what now? Is it almost 40 years next year?
Almost 40
the
years,
War of 84. I know, like it's time. We're due. The team is due. The fans are due. The city, everyone's due. It's time. So I hope it happens. Torkelson will be really interesting for me to watch this season as well. See what kind of adjustments he has made coming from his rookie season to this year. Like, in my mind, if these guys play to even just like half the potential I think they're capable of, then the season does become a little bit more fun. And maybe it won't be like, oh my God, this is going to be brutal. We're going to be out of it by Memorial Day. But just, coming off such lows and woes of last year, it's hard not to think pessimistically. And then you look at that April schedule, like we talked about last week,
Yeah.
and it's not pretty. And then you think back to how the Tigers have played the last two Aprils, that's not pretty. So as quickly as I can be like, all right, maybe this won't be too bad, then reality sets in. I go, oh boy, this is going to be bad.
Yeah, I mean, it is one of those situations where I'm almost like, okay, if we come out of April better than 350 on the winning percentage, like
Hmm.
that feels that feels great. Um,
Yeah.
and I kind of hate to be in that position as a fan, but that's where the team's at, and that's kind of where the bar needs to be set. One of the other things that Harris said that was interesting, because we talked at length last week, we joked a lot about it, how the Tigers don't have a third baseman, um,
Hmm.
and talking about the position players side of free agency, where the Tigers signed no position players to major league contracts.
Yeah.
Did some trade for some guys, but Harris said, we feel like we attacked that issue this offseason. How it all plays out, we have to wait until spring training tells us, which obviously we can agree on. But how do you feel about the characterization that they attacked that issue this offseason?
Uh, they didn't. They went out and signed a couple guys with some minor league deals and some invites to spring training. They technically went out and got guys that could potentially play the position, but no one that's a long term and legitimate solution. Uh, that's smoke. That's smoke and mirrors from Scott Harris on that one. I'm sorry if you're telling me Tyler Nevin is the long term solution, or Andy Ibanez, or whoever Cesar Hernandez, like any of these guys who might make the team out of camp and then throw them at third or whatever. It's not a viable long term option. Maybe an option for half the season this year, but not for many years to come. I guess we could see what Nick Maytone does. Maybe Kreidler figures it out. We'll see, but they didn't bring in anybody at third, and not that the third base free agent class was super deep to begin with,
True.
but I mean, I guess some aspect. Would you feel better though if the Tigers went out and made Evan Longoria, who's like late 30s and very much at the tail end of his career, like a 1 year deal, or bringing a guy like a Justin Turner, or even re-signing Candelario? It's one of those things. I honestly think just for morale, this might be the wrong way to look at it, but yeah, I maybe wouldn't mind a Justin Turner or a Longoria at third. Just be like, hey, it's kind of cool. I got
Hmm.
Longoria at third, wrapping up his career. Miggy's wrapping up his career. But then I kind of checked myself what I said a couple minutes ago. If you bring in a guy like that, are you trying to win as many games possible, or is that just kind of like, hey, this is just kind of a filler? This
Yeah.
is a innings eater equivalent in terms of bringing in a position player. So, you know,
Yeah, I mean, and I think a lot of these comments are uh, saying we're in a rebuilding phase without saying we're rebuilding, which I do appreciate that he hasn't said those words.
true,
That he is, is still speaking the term of like we're trying to be as competitive as possible. This does take
true.
time. I agree with that. That it it is just frustrating as a fan base because obviously we were expecting to be competing for a World Series to close out Miguel Cabrera's career. That was
Yeah,
kind of what we were led to believe, the bill of goods we were sold, that was going to be where this team was in these years, that Illich was ready to open up his checkbook to make it happen, that all of those things would be coming together. Now, maybe Illich is and will be ready to open up his checkbook 2 years from now when this has played out further and the Miguel Cabrera contract is off the books. Um, but that I don't trust that in the least.
yeah. One way to look at this too, for what it's worth. I'm not trying to stick up for Chris Illich because I can't stand the man, but
What has
think
happened
about
to
what
you, Luke?
I know. I'm not sticking up for Chris. I'm just thinking maybe somewhat a little positively for what it's worth. Think about where the Tigers were when we entered into the 2021 season. Their biggest signing that offseason was bringing on AJ Hinch to be the new manager of the
Mhm.
club once Gardy retired. But from a position player move, I can't really think of anything that like jumped out like, whoa, they went out and got that guy. That was the year they signed Robbie Grossman to the 2 year deal. They signed Jose Urena. I think they brought Scope back for the on the 1 year deal. That was when they brought in, I think, Nomar Mazara and Wilson Ramos, the catcher.
Mm-hmm.
None of those moves were earth-shattering by any means, and look how that season turned out. It was without a doubt the most fun season of Tigers baseball in the last 7 or 8 years.
Yeah.
Still didn't finish 500, but I mean, still, that was a pretty fun summer in Detroit, and it built lots of expectations heading into 2022, and then obviously we know what happened from there. So maybe, kind of like what I said last week's show, going in with lower expectations, thinking that this is going to be a dumpster fire, and then maybe it surprisingly is not. But I feel like in 2021 there was just so many like career bests from guys we didn't expect: the Robbie Grossmans, the Jonathan Scopes. Eric Haas came out of nowhere. Akil Badu was like a rookie phenom overnight, for those first couple of weeks of the season. Um, I don't know. I hope something like that happens again this year. But just kind of like, can the Tigers catch lightning in a bottle twice in a couple of seasons? I don't know. I don't think they can. But they did say, I read an article, the last time the Tigers had fun, which was 2021, Haas and Rogers were platooning behind the plate. And it seems to be right now, from all indications, unless something crazy happens in spring training, that's going to be the platoon heading into this season as well. So maybe that's a
That
good
could
omen.
be
Jake
could be the
Rogers
spark
has
plug.
that. He has that stash back again. So what can you do?
Speaking of Illich, that'll segue us nicely into kind of this other news piece. Illich
Mhm.
unveiled to the team a couple of things about changing the player experience to be a Detroit Tiger. Includes a new team plane. No date yet on when the plane will actually be ready for use. But they're getting a new plane. They're revamping the clubhouse at Comerica Park, and then obviously there are the stadium changes being made to Comerica Park that we talked about
Mhm.
last week. And again, not to defend Chris, and like before we started recording the show, I was like, I don't need to hear from Chris Illich that we're getting a new plane. I would like to hear from Chris Illich that we're getting a new third baseman. To which you commented that, can the plane play third base?
Mhm.
But that being said, this also does kind of play into the thought process of Scott Harris is getting this team ready to be competitive for a long time coming. As we get there, including these things that make it attractive to come to the organization.
Yeah, I agree. But can we also upgrade the fan experience by putting a winning baseball team on the field? That's fun that they have like family weekend and you can ride the carousel. I'm pretty sure the Ferris wheel, whatever it is at Comerica Park. I don't know. I haven't been there in such a long time. But hey, you think they're gonna have those beer bats when we go this year? That'd be pretty fun, eh?
Yeah, I mean, we'll definitely get one if they have them.
I hope they have them. That'd be a great time. Yeah, I mean, I get what you're saying. Is kind of rolling out in style. Does that help the winning mentality? Does that make Detroit a more attractive place for maybe potential free agents to want to come for years down the road? Maybe,
As
but
my middle school soccer coach always said, look good, play good.
hmm and you're playing good, you're looking good. So
That's right.
we'll see. We'll see. Speaking of Chris Illich, this has kind of something to do with Tigers, but not really. I had Little Caesars pizza for the first time in forever yesterday.
Did you have a hot and ready, or did you have a deep dish? What'd you have?
We had just hot and ready with cheesy. It was a pepperoni pizza with a cheesy crust, cheesy stuffed crust. Very
Luke, that's
yummy.
not good
Very yummy.
pizza. The
What is
hot and
that?
ready is not good pizza.
The hot and ready is not good pizza.
No. If you're gonna get cheap pizza from a Detroit
Uh-huh.
chain, Domino's is the
Mhm.
superior.
Well, Alex,
If
now
you're gonna
hold
get
on
a
a second
deep dish
here.
pizza, Little Caesars is the superior.
I've never had Little Caesars deep dish. I'm so used to like Lou Malnati's deep dish and Giordano's. Is it as
That's
fill? Is it as fill? Is it as
that's
filling as
fake
deep
deep
dish?
dish.
Which one? Lou
That's
Malnati's or Little
yeah.
Caesars?
Anything from Chicago is
Oh,
just
stop
a
it.
big tomato soup pretending to be a pizza.
Oh, just stop it now. Let's not argue. Let's not get into it on a Thursday. Well, listen to this. When I was at
Now I
when
know
I
that
was
there are
what,
also listeners shouting about Jets Pizza to their
yeah. So here's
radios
the
right
thing.
now.
We were. This was a work thing, and we were trying to get a pizza at work. So then we all were putting our brains together, me and some of my coworkers were trying to order the right pizza. One coworker immediately recommended Papa John's, and I thought that that person should have been tried with a war crime. That was just such a bad suggestion. But beyond that, I said, let's look at Jets Pizza. Jets was going to be the move, but Jets didn't deliver to us. So then I said, all right, let's get Domino's. Well, same thing. Domino's didn't deliver to us. So then the next option, I said, let's try Little Caesars. Little Caesars did deliver to us, and thank God they did, because had they not, we probably then would have gone Pizza Hut, and then finally Papa John's, which I know delivers to us because every time we have an event at work,
Mm-hmm.
if they ever get pizza, it's always Papa John's. But Little Caesars, way better than Papa John's pizza. 100%.
Yes, I would agree with that. I would agree that I would rather have, because also like Papa John's is more expensive, and like at best tastes the same.
I like Little Caesars, the stuffed crust cheesy, the cheesy stuffed crust. That was pretty good. Pretty. I mean, I had it
okay.
other
So
places
like
before,
with the
but it was
cheesy
yummy.
crust, you got a little bit more, a
Mhm.
little bit more there as opposed to the plain hot and ready. But
Yeah.
I think not to make this a pizza show, but the Tigers have
I'm
been
gonna have
owned
pizza
by a
after the
pizza
show tonight,
family
for
for
real.
the last 50 years. So more than that, 60, 70 years. I don't know when the Domino's family bought the team. I don't remember that off the top of my head.
But Little Caesars is definitely better than Papa John's in terms of, I would say, taste and also racism. Chris Illich is a moron, but at least he's not a racist,
That's true. That's true. But I will
as far
say,
as we know.
in Papa John's defense, Papa John no longer part of the company, and
Yeah.
Shaquille O'Neal now sits on their board.
That's a pretty good. That's a great upgrade, actually. I mean, who do we
But
talk about? That's not a
I
good upgrade. That's a great upgrade.
that's a good win. Now we just need Shaq to fix the pizza recipe.
Did you know that in high school people used to call me Little Caesars because I too am hot and ready to go? You cut out? Hello?
We're gonna move to my stat conversation.
Let's do it. Some stats. Stat game. Let's play.
All right, Luke. Oh man, which one of these do I want to use? I got a lot of numbers for you today. I got so many numbers.
Let's do it.
But I don't know which one I want to quiz you about.
Okay.
Okay. If Major League Baseball's new pitch clock were in effect last season,
All right.
how many pitchers, based on their average time to the plate, would have had a hard time meeting the cutoff on the bases empty pitch clock? So 15 seconds on that pitch clock. Qualified pitchers.
Can you give me a ballpark number? Are we at least in triple digits? Are we in double digits?
We're not in sure. It's double digits.
Okay.
Trying to, how many qualified? There were about 400 qualified pitchers in Major League Baseball last season.
And so just give me the question just one more time. Speed round it to me.
How many pitchers would have like gotten extra balls called because they didn't make it to the plate in time?
I am going to say, if out of 400 or so qualified starting pitchers, you said certified qualifiers. I don't know. Let's go 77.
That's a little high, but not too bad. It is
Okay.
59. For a stab in the dark, pretty good. Pretty good.
Thank you.
Now, that number goes down to 49 and the bases occupied. The MLB average last season for bases empty was 12 and a half seconds from receiving the ball to going to the plate, and it was 17 seconds with runners on. So, we're gonna do okay. And it looks like I'm pro pitch clock, by the way. I am way okay with the pitch clock. I think that there's a lot of shenanigans that happen where people are taking way too much time in that it is likely to reduce it, or it did in the minor leagues last season, reduce game lengths by 25 minutes. Um,
Yeah,
so this
that's not
does
bad.
feel like the thing that baseball has finally done that is going to accomplish one of the major complaints of non-baseball people, which is that baseball games are way too long, where nothing's happening. So the average 2022 game Major League Baseball, 3 hours 6 minutes. If we think it's going to come down by 25 minutes, we're looking at a smooth 240 for most Major League Baseball games.
I'm not terribly opposed to this rule change either. As much as I love the game of baseball, sometimes it does go on a little too long, and I agree with you. There is sometimes a lot of unnecessary shenanigans with pitchers on the mound, whether it's trying, get their signs on with the catcher, whatever it could be, and just unnecessary. I guess is the best way to unnecessary and a bit silly, if you ask me. A little too silly for my liking. I think this is one of those rule changes that it's going to take me a little bit while to get used to. Like I feel like there's gonna be a lot of times where like, wait a minute, how'd that other ball just get added? Like, oh, that's right, the pitch clock. Okay, got it.
Mm-hmm.
Great. All right, move on. So I think it's gonna take me a little bit, I think, to kind of get acclimated with this rule. But I think after a while, I'll be okay with it and be like, oh yeah, just gotta moving up, gotta go.
Yeah, and I think it'll be interesting too to watch what the mechanic of enforcement is in the early parts of the year. Like obviously we have the mechanic that I absolutely hate in the NFL, where for delay of game, he's looking at the clock. The clock goes to zeros, then he looks down, has the ball been snapped, throw the flag.
Yeah. Like
I
why
don't
even
know.
look at the clock? Like if it's
Yeah.
zero, it's zero.
I don't know what that mechanic looks like in Major League Baseball. I don't know if it's like basketball where he has a timer on his person, so he doesn't have to look. He feels the buzz. Ball has not been delivered. Ball. We'll see. I don't know. It'll be good.
Let me offer this hypothetical to you real quick, and just kind of as how they handle a situation like this if it were to happen. Let's say it's bases loaded, bottom of the ninth, full count, and you know a pitcher goes past the allotted 15 seconds or whatever the time parameters are to have runners on base, um, and then from there throws a strike, but really exceeded the clock limitations. How does that work? Do you challenge that play? It's like, oh no, he waited a half second too long. That's ball four. Runner takes home. They win. Like also, I know there's different rules too with like having runners on base as opposed to bases empty. That's something I'd have to just kind of get used to and read up on. But just little things like that. I wonder like how will that all come in? Can a manager challenge if like no look at the pitch clock he exceeded the 15 seconds or the 12 seconds or whatever. Like I'll be curious to see how all that works.
Yeah, I mean, I that one I don't know. I don't know if they can, if that is a challengeable play or not. You get 15 seconds with the bases empty. You get 20 seconds with a runner on. And yeah, I mean it'll be interesting. Let's stay with pitchers as we kind of talk through some of these rule changes here as
And
well.
I'm sorry, I have one more question.
Yeah, please.
Hey, sorry, 1 second. So and this is just my own stupidity, but so are they counting the 15 seconds from the minute the catcher throws the ball to the pitcher and the pitcher catches it? He has 15 seconds to get on the mound, get the sign, and then pitch the ball, or is it once your foot is on the rubber, then you have 15 seconds?
You have 15 seconds from receiving the ball from the catcher to the start of your delivery.
Gotcha. So I wonder, will they, if you're a pitcher, right? So you throw it. Usually they do their look, whatever. They get the ball. They walk back to the pitcher's mound. I wonder if they will just kind of cut out that motion or just not ask for the ball until they're back on the pitcher's mound. And then they have 15 seconds to kind of regroup.
Yeah, I think that
it's going to be interesting to see
is a lot of catchers holding the ball longer than they might have previously, which will be an interesting way that. Now, what I'm very hopeful for is that some of the pitchers that have some of the most annoying pre-pitch rituals, hopefully that will stop, because I don't think they have time to do some of them. and they've always annoyed me because they take so long. So hopefully,
The old Craig Kimbrell.
yeah, that is
Yeah.
exactly who I'm thinking of at this exact moment.
Yep. Yeah. That is
Um,
again, I'm not opposed to this rule. I'm just curious to see how it's all going to play out. So it's kind of exciting.
so here's the other one. I mean, obviously, okay. Also, the bases are bigger, which will be
A lot
interesting.
bigger.
Yeah, like it's 3 inches shorter to get from
Yeah.
home to first base, and presumably
Yep.
third base to home. I don't know why that wouldn't
Yep.
be the case, but so that'll be interesting just to kind of watch the guys adjust to that as they go through that. But here's the other change, and this is really going to change how the Tigers manage their bullpen, because the Detroit Tigers saw many position players pitch last
Harold
season.
Castro.
Not allowed anymore. So you can only bring in a position player to pitch if you are trailing by 8 or more runs, or leading in the ninth by at least 10 runs. Which so I guess maybe it won't change the situation for the Tigers, because they can get down by 8 runs. They were pretty good at that last year. So
Yeah, true. What are they going to do this year if they get down by 8 runs? Tucker Barnhart's gone. Harold Castro's gone. Cody Clemens is gone. Who's going to be that new person? I'm curious to see who's going to. Do we get to see Mickey pitch once? You think this season if they're getting blown out?
Bring
That'd
him
be
in.
funny. Why not?
Let him do it.
Why not? Yeah, this is another rule change that I'm okay with. I hopefully them will, caution and limit teams from using their backup catcher or utility infielder like in the 4th inning to be like, well, we got to save arms, and it's like, okay, great, thanks. And all the people who bought tickets to watch this game, I'm sure they're having a blast right now. So good job, guys.
As someone who did get to see Harold Castro pitch at Yankee Stadium, I will say, just from the enjoying Harold Castro, like getting the opportunity to see him come in and pitch, that was kind of that was fun for an at bat. And then I was like, well,
and you looked up the scoreboard and you were like, oh, I forgot. We're still in hell,
sitting here for the next 2.5 hours watching the Tigers get absolutely hammered by the Yankees.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then obviously the shift is banned. And I don't love it, just because I think that analytics were making the game interesting, and I think last season we were starting to see hitters figure out how to hit around the shift, and it was going to naturally be less of a strategic advantage because guys were going to get better at hitting, and I think that would have ultimately led to a more interesting baseball product than just banning the shift is going to allow. But I'm also not. I'm a little bit more whatever about it than I maybe anticipated that I would be as it happened.
Yeah, I think it's a bad rule change. I think banning strategy is definitely a head scratcher. But I've always bring up this point. So what's next? You're gonna ban the hit and run? You're gonna ban drag bunting? Yeah, I mean, like, what else are we thinking here? So, yeah, I don't like it. Again, I'm not irate over it, but I just think it's kind of like, all right, so we're trying to. It seems to me like we're trying to dumb down the game a little bit, and I don't feel the need to do that. I don't like that we're doing that. I don't like that's the direction Major League Baseball is taking it. So, yeah, you don't need to ban the shift. Just hitters need to offensively figure it out and hit around it. You don't need to put a ghost runner on second base in extra innings. Let baseball play proceed like it has for years and years and years prior. It's worked out fine. There's exceptions to the rules, kind of like we said at the beginning of the show, but we don't need to dumb down the game just like that. And I always bring it back to this point. They are so hell-bent on making Major League Baseball more appealing to the everyday person and not maybe the everyday fan. And if you, after a while, continuously try to make the game more appealing to those who, let's call it, really don't care about it. They want to go to the game on a nice summer day. They'll maybe tune in for a couple of innings, but 9 times out of 10, they're gone by the 7th or the 8th drinking at the bar next door. you're starting then to alienate and isolate the people who truly love, live, and breathe this game, your diehards. And you're punishing them while awarding those who are getting drunk at a happy hour a couple blocks down from the stadium and maybe watching the game on the TV at the bar. So I don't know. I always get really frustrated when they make these rules and just having that, talk about the banning the shift and thinking back to the Ghost Runner conversation at the beginning. It's like don't dumb the game down. It's a great game. It's not a perfect game by any means. It needs changes. I think something like the pitch clock is a good change.
Mm-hmm.
But I just they got to be careful with it. And I think right now they're definitely going down that avenue of making it a lot dumber of a game just to appeal to a bunch of people who don't even really care in the first place.
Yeah, I think ultimately now it'll be, and maybe this is part of what Major League Baseball is trying to do here, like with the shift and the pitch clock both coming in and the larger bases. I do think we're going to see some pretty high scoring baseball games as it goes into effect, and then as teams adjust, I think that'll start to come down. But you think about pitchers maybe working a little bit quicker than they have been, which can lead to some hanging sliders and all that kind of good stuff that can lead to some big plays. 3 fewer inches to get from home to first, and suddenly the old gaps you used to rely on are back. So it could be an offensive explosion. Whether or not that's good for baseball, bad for baseball, I'll let the steroid era answer that question of whether or not that was ultimately good for baseball or bad for it.
Well, we might see an offensive explosion around the league. I don't think it's coming to Detroit, Michigan this season, but I could be wrong.
It's only 412 to
Let 'em prove
center
'em
now,
wrong.
Luke. It's only 412.
Only 412.
It's so short.
Got a goddamn commercial jet plane playing third base and see how it goes.
And it's still
Lord be
going to
with
get
us.
through the infield.
Still going to get through the infield. Still going to make it happen. Alex,
Any closing
what
thoughts,
else do you
Luke?
got? Yeah, well, you asked me, this week's stat question. Now I got to ask you. You went 0 for 1 last week.
It's true.
I'm going to stick in the 2009 season. I already had my
boy.
question picked out. Here we go. Who was the Detroit Tigers starting baseman in the 2009
Starting
season?
baseman? Which base?
I'm sorry. I just had a stroke. Help me. Starting shortstop.
That's even funnier. You said starting baseman.
That's even funnier because it's not a baseman. Yeah, so I just had a complete brain fart. Not a baseman. Plays baseball. Help me out here now. Who's the starting shortstop?
2009. 2009 starting shortstop.
No cheating.
I'm not Googling anything.
This is not an open note quiz, not open book.
What about an open Google quiz?
Well, you couldn't do that in 2009 either.
Yes, you could.
You couldn't Google. They wouldn't let you Google questions on an open book. Maybe nowadays in schools. I don't know.
On an open book. I was like, you could
years.
Google in 2009.
Yeah,
Luke.
Google was around in 2009.
Google
I'm not
existed.
I'm just saying. You didn't get to go on your iPad or your tablet in the middle of a quiz and be like, I don't know what this answer is. Let me look on TikTok.
LOL. This is very funny. I'm just going to tell you what I Googled.
Okay.
I obviously Googled 2009 Detroit Tigers starting shortstop, which got me to a baseball almanac complete roster, which
and the answer is
doesn't list anyone's position.
Oh,
it's
a baseman. See,
it's a baseman, a baseman.
It's just a baseman.
Armando Galarraga.
You want to take a crack at
was
it?
The
Incorrect, but I think that was his second year in the league, if I'm not mistaken. I think he debuted, I want to say in 08, maybe. I could be wrong on that. Want to take a crack at it?
Brandon Inge.
No, but good try.
Placido
We were looking
Polanco.
for. No.
Great name.
Good try. He one time snuffed me of an autograph when I was a little kid. True story at a White Sox game. We were looking for Adam Everett. Adam Everett, starting shortstop for the Tigers in 2009. All right. Try again next week. Next week we'll try to get out of 2009. Maybe take a look and see what's going on in 2010. But that's all I got for you this week. Back to you in the studio.
Adam Everett was born on Saturday, February 5th,
Oh,
1977 in Austell, Georgia.
okay. We forgot to wish him a happy birthday a couple weeks ago.
Whoop.
Shame on us.
That is embarrassing. That's
on us. We'll take the L.
embarrassing. He is
We'll take the L.
500th oldest living Major League Baseball player. How do you like that stat?
What's a bizarre stat? This has gone on long enough.
All right, let's get out of here. We'll see y'all in a couple weeks. A couple of great interviews lined up for you. Should be a good time as we get rolling into spring training. Luke, have a good one.
See you, buddy.
It's like the shuffle the paper music.